based on our experience of the world, we come to see that things do not come into being from nothing, that out of nothing, nothing comes. Nobody here tonight is worried that while we're listening to this debate, a horse may have popped into being out of nothing in your dorm room and is there defiling the carpet right out of the seat. So it seems to me that we have every reason to think that first premise is true. If things really could come into being out of nothing uncaused, then it becomes inexplicable why just anything and everything doesn't come into being out of nothing. Why doesn't root beer and Beethoven and hot dogs come into being out of nothing? You can't say that only things of a certain nature come into being from nothing, because nothingness has no nature to constrain it. Nothingness has no properties. So it seems to me if any premise is obvious in this whole debate tonight, it would be this one, that whatever begins to exist has a cause.
I disagree.
Really?
It's surprising as it may sound. And it is possible to say that only a special kind of thing can arise out of nothing. Physicists have looked at vacuums, that is to say, they have tried to produce conditions under which there is absolutely not one single detectable particle, and they have found that, as a matter of fact, particles pop into existence. Now, a horse is not going to pop into existence in a vacuum, because everything that now exists is the result of 5 or 10 billion years of change, evolution, and growing complexity. Consequently, when we're talking about the beginning of the universe, we might be talking precisely about those slight oscillations in the vacuum that produce out of nothing, and in a completely random way, they actually produce a particle. Once you've got a particle, or two, right, then you're on your way.
Dr. De Sousa, your example of how something can come into existence out of nothing involved a quantum vacuum. Isn't it the case that quantum vacua in fact have properties and therefore they must exist, because that anything that has properties has to exist? That seems to be a necessary truth. And therefore it's not a very good example of something coming into existence out of nothing. Rather, it's something coming into existence out of something.
My point about Thank you. My point about the possibility that of something coming out of nothing was linked to my remark about the possibility of a meta-level physical law that allowed for physical laws to develop into what they now are, but that were in some significant way different before the Big Bang. Okay? My point is simply that, once again, I'm not claiming to have the answers. The theists are the ones claiming to have the answers. I'm pleading for the recognition of our ignorance, because in the history of science, the only thing, starting from Plato's remark to Meno, the only thing that could possibly lead you to actually get a good explanation is to start off by admitting that you don't know. And religious people keep saying that actually they do know. And what they say, according to me, is essentially meaningless. I'm merely asking for the legitimacy of not knowing and being both curious and full of wonder to be recognized as an equally valid attitude to life. And that's the one respect in which I think that, yes, an atheist can be religious in some sense, and that is simply to have a sense of awe before the universe without jumping to some sort of explanatory conclusion.
I am so grateful that you asked that question, because when Dr. De Sousa was saying that quantum fluctuations are an example of something coming from nothing, I was over here biting my tongue, wanting to speak out. Of course, curiosity and wonder is an appropriate attitude, but that is no justification for pseudoscience. And that's what it is when you're talking about the vacuum as nothingness. The vacuum is a physical entity with a rich physical substructure. It is a sea of fluctuating energy governed by physical laws. It is not an example of things coming into being out of nothing. And when Dr. De Sousa says, well, maybe there are deeper level laws that show there's some possibility in nothingness for things to originate, that is pseudoscience. That is just utterly empty. I think it is so ironic that when people think there's a conflict between science and religion, they declare another victory in the battle between science and religion and jump on the bandwagon of science. But when science starts confirming religious beliefs, like in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, all of a sudden they jump off the bandwagon of science and start deserting contemporary science in favor of these pseudo-scientific hypotheses.